Hi, my name is Jason Hill. I am the Canvas admin for Utah Valley University. I'm also a brand administrator for Qualtrics for our university and its users. What I've been doing is putting together a Canvas quick help tool using Qualtrics so that we can capture frequent requests from faculty and students in relation to their needs with Canvas. So why are we using Qualtrics for this? Well, I'll show you throughout the tutorial here what I'm doing. Basically, Qualtrics makes it very simple for non-coders to create workflows that adapt to the user's needs and then trigger emails that are sent to individuals that can meet their specific needs based on what they chose in the survey. So basically, a user would make certain selections, and based on those selections, the results of this survey would then be forwarded to those who need to help this person. So let's just dive right into it and get started. One thing to note is that I've been working on this for several months, and it actually started out really small, and then it kind of just snowballed into this big organic workflow here. So you'll notice that I have quite a few questions and, as you'll see in a minute, branches where people can go based on their selections. Don't let that overwhelm you. Just know that you can start out very small and you can continue to build on it and make it grow and evolve based on your needs. So let's go ahead and take a look at the survey flow first. So up here in the top, I'm going to just click on survey flow, and you'll notice that this first section up here, I've got one question in this block, and we can show what that question is, and it's basically I need Canvas help as a, and then you have the options student, TA, or teacher. We're not going to look at that question right now, but you'll notice that this branch will take you down a certain path. So if they select student, then they're taken down this set of questioning. Let me just minimize that. If they select teacher's aid, then they would go down this option. Now I haven't built out the teacher's aid functionality at all yet, so I'm still working on this. It's still a work in progress. And then if they were to select teacher as an option, then the teacher would go down this path here. And so there's many different branches used throughout the survey. Now, at the end of each branch, you have a few options here. You'll notice this red one is an end of survey message. So these end of survey messages are basically tailored to meet the specific need that the user has input throughout the survey. So each of these end of survey messages are different based on where the user exits the survey at. You'll also notice that I have this embedded data section. And now these are things that I create myself. So I can type whatever I want in here, and I'll use that. So basically, this is a way to set a variable, more like a constant, I should say. So it's something that does not change. So I've created a variable here basically and given it a value. So that's one way to look at embedded data. And we'll look at why that's important here in just a second. That is the way the survey flow is set up. Okay, now keep in mind, again, this is very complex right now. You start out very small. So for example, the teacher's aid, this is just a very small beginning of a survey flow. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this, and yes, I want to close without saving. So that's the survey flow. Now, where that embedded data comes into play is we'll take a look at the email triggers. Now, the email triggers are very powerful. It's basically saying, okay, you have certain conditions, and if those conditions are met, then we're going to forward this email to this person to solve this question or this problem that the faculty member has. So for example, if a person needs access to a course, so faculty course access, this email is going to go to canvas@uvu.edu. But if a faculty member needs help importing content, then an email will be sent off to our Office of Teaching and Learning Lab. And so based on certain conditions, for example, let's go ahead and look at this add now message. This is the embedded data, so I'm using the values that I showed you just a few minutes ago. I'm using those values right here. So if fi-add is equal to true, then we're going to kick this email off to this email address, and it's going to be the from name, and we'll look at this in just a second. So this is the from first name, and then the from last name, and then the reply to email address is actually what the person entered in a question that we'll look at here in just a second. This QID 32, that's basically the question ID. So it's coming from question number 32, the text entry value there, and we're going to use that to the reply to email so that when the Canvas admin gets this email, they're able to just hit the reply button and send a response to the user who submitted this ticket in the Canvas Quick Help tool. So I'm giving this particular email a condition. If this condition is met, then I want it to go to this email address, and these are the values that I have in the from name, the reply to email, and the subject. And then I have the body of my email. So as an admin, I'm getting this email, and we'll walk through it in just a second. I'm getting this email, and you'll notice that I've put in this piped text. So these are basically variables. Qualtrics refers to them as piped text. And to access that, you basically click anywhere in the body of the message, and then you click this piped text button. And then you can choose all the different values you want. So I can go to question 74. As soon as I find it here, it's just up here a little bit. There it is. So I can grab question 74, and let's say I want the course URL filled. So now I have this pipe text variable right here. You'll notice that that is the same thing right here, and that's one of the cool things that I'm going to show you in just a minute. So I selected the URL that the user would have entered, and then, for example, down here, I selected that URL, and then I added /users, and you'll see why that's important here in just a second. That is the way the emails are set up. And you'll notice that I've got tons of email triggers based on all those different paths that the survey ends in the survey flow. I've got an email trigger set up for all of those different paths. Now, to be honest, it is a little difficult keeping track of all those things. That's why I say try to start out small and build out a branch every time you go. Try to build out what you want for that branch, including the end of survey message, the email triggers, and as we'll see some other things. So I'm going to just go ahead and close this without saving. Let's go down and we'll look at question 32 and question 74 from that email trigger. Here is question 32. So you'll notice that I'm asking for the teacher's first name, last name, the UVID, which is our unique identifier for our campus. We call it UVID. And then I'm asking the teacher what department they're with, their phone number or extension, and then their UVU email. So that is where I'm asking for it here. For each of these questions, you can actually add custom validation, which is pretty awesome. Each of our UVIDs, for example, are 8 digits long. So you'll notice that I'm setting a condition here where the UVID has to be greater than or equal to this value, and then the UVID also has to be less than or equal to this value here. Then I also have inputted these additional things that I want to check. So for example, the last one for the email address, I want to capture the faculty member's official university email address. So whatever the instructor inputs in this value, it must contain @uvu.edu. And you'll notice that you have so many different options that you can choose from. And then you want to also display an error message. So I'm looking for valid instructor information. This error message is something that I created myself, and I'll show you where that's done here in just a moment. But basically, if any of these conditions are not met, then an error message is displayed to the user saying, hey, look, we need a valid UVID, we need a valid UVU email address, and so forth. And then let's go down and take a look at question 74. This is the faculty add request that we looked at a minute ago. The faculty member is basically in this section wanting to add a different faculty member to his or her course so that this faculty member can import the content from Canvas from that original instructor's course to their own section that they're teaching in the future sometime. And so I'm asking the instructor to fill out the name of the person they want added, and then the UVID of that person, and then of course the UVU email. And again, I have the same type of validation here. The cool thing here is that I'm able to validate the URL field as well. So if we take a look at this validation, you'll notice that I want these first two values to just not be empty. I could probably get a little more specific if I wanted to put forth the time and energy, but right now I'm just caring that they're not empty. However, this last one, I want the URL to at least contain this first structure. Now, this is the normal structure for a URL using Canvas at our institution. So it's uvu.instructure.com/courses, and of course at the beginning we have the https://. So this is a method to validate that the user entered in a valid URL for the course that they're wanting to add this person to. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And let's take a look at what this survey would look like. So I'm going to just preview the survey. I'm going to go ahead and close this right mobile display. This is just showing us what it would look like on a mobile device, which is a very handy tool as well. I'm going to go through this one as a teacher so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to select teacher, and here's where I'm going to enter in my information. So I'm going to enter in my UVID. Now I'm going to leave the last digit off so you can see the validation in progress, and then just enter in a fake department, my extension, and of course my email address. And then we're going to say I want to add another faculty member to a Canvas course, and then I'll try to progress, and you'll notice that I get this error validation message. So I'm just going to add this last bit here, and then we're going to choose next. This is just information about the different roles that a user can request a person be added to their course in. That's great. I'm just going to go through that. And then I'm going to choose add a faculty member to one of my courses with the role of future instructor. And then we'll choose next. And here's where I want to add different instructors. So I'm just going to use a different name. I'm going to use my same UVID just for the sake of this tutorial. And then of course I'm going to also use my own email address for this fake user as well, just so we can see what the emails look like when they come over. And then I'm going to just say, let's say this is chemistry -10 1110 or whatever, and then we're going to say this is for the fall 2016 semester. And then the URL, it has to look similar to this. I'm going to go over to this page and grab this URL and insert it in the field. And this should validate just fine. And then I get an end of survey message, and it says, "Thank you, Jason. We'll add Walter White to chemistry 1110, etc., etc." You may have noticed that I had an email come through almost immediately. So we'll go take a look at those emails and see what they look like. So this first one, you'll notice that it came to me as if I were Walter White, and it's basically saying Jason Hill requested to add you to his Chem 1110 course. No further actions needed on your part. And then it gives the user a direct link to the course. Now this link is masked by Qualtrics' backend services. It's basically to ensure that the URL is not a malicious URL. So when I click on it, it takes me right to the course, which is awesome. But you'll notice that in the email that came to the Canvas admin is given an URL, but it has /users on the end. So if I click on it, I am taken directly to the user page for this course, where I can then add that person by their UVID directly here. So there's no searching for the course. it just drops you right into the course, and more specifically right into the course roster where you can add people, which is great. So I'm going to go back to the survey here, and we'll just go ahead and close this out. And I want to show you one more thing, and we'll go through this as a student now. And I'm going to again close this preview window. So I'll just enter in my information one more time. And then let's say I'm having trouble with completing an incomplete grade. And we'll go ahead and hit next. Now this student, let's say he has a question about the course itself. He's into the course, he's able to access it just fine. And then again, we would enter in the URL. I still have it copied from the last time. And we'll just say this is just a test question. And then we'll hit next. So I get another end of survey message, and it's basically saying we'll email you at your student email address. Now, one thing to note, this email address is basically set up using just the UVID. In the actual end of survey message, which we'll take a look at in a second, I'm grabbing that pipe text from where the student entered their UVID and then just adding at my.uvu.edu. So this is to ensure that we are only communicating with the student through their official university email address and not going through their personal email addresses. So let's go take a look at those emails. So we'll click on this one, and it's basically saying, hey, the student has a question about an incomplete grade. Here's all the information that's been received. Now the cool thing here is this link, of course, takes you right to the actual course itself, but then this one is pretty cool. I click on that and it takes me right to a custom search string and returns the search results directly related to the UVID, which is pretty awesome. Basically, all I'm doing in that email is saying, okay, let's take this first part of this long URL all the way up to and including the equal sign. We'll put that in the email, and then we'll append the user ID to the very end of it, which I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. And that's it. So when the Canvas admin clicks, it takes you right to these results. You don't have to go in and type in the name or copy and paste the user ID, and then you're taken right to this users page where you can then masquerade as the user or do whatever else is needed. So let's take one final look at the survey setup here. So I'm going to go into our email triggers, and then we're going to look at this last student one. And this was the student question for the incomplete grade course. And you'll notice that the link to the student, I'm just taking this value here up to and including that equal sign, and then this last part is the pipe text for that student's UVID. So pretty awesome. And then of course the embedded data is basically saying if the IG course is equal to question, then send this email, which is pretty awesome. And then last, I just want to show you where those end of survey messages are stored. So if we go into the library here and then into the messages library, you can add as many folders as you want. I've just got these Canvas quick help ones. I've got my validation messages here. So for example, this is where I would enter, please enter a valid name, UVID, and UVU email address, and so forth. But then I've got these end of survey messages that are displayed to the user. So for example, let's do the IG course question, the one that you just saw. Thank you, so-and-so. I'm grabbing the pipe text for the first name here for the student. And then I'm grabbing the pipe text for the user ID and then appending at my.uvu.edu so that I'm just displaying the student's official university email address. So that is basically what I've been working on to provide some low-level support for faculty and students using Canvas. I'm kind of envisioning seeing this, a link to the Canvas Quick Help tool living somewhere here in this help thing, probably at the top somewhere where it says Canvas Quick Help. I'm also considering hosting it on one of our department's web pages that the university maintains, where if a student lands there and they have a question, it drops them right into the tool, and then based on their entries, their request or their question is routed to the right person that can support them. So that is the Canvas Quick Help tool. If you have any questions, please email me at jason.hill@uvu.edu. And at the end of this video, I'll also include an email address for our Qualtrics rep who can point you in the right direction if you have any questions about using Qualtrics on your campus or implementing some similar type of tool for working with Canvas. Thank you for watching, and again, please reach out if you have any questions.